up, boys. We need 10,600 gallons tonight. Fill her up.
Hang on, let me finish my sandwich here real quick. We're going to test out the new Rode wireless mic system. Just picked up at B&H Audio. Can you hear me now? Can you still hear me way out here okay? How's that audio level? Stand by for an update. Welcome back to Madrid, Spain. Got some numbers to share with you from last night's flight from JFK to Madrid. 10,600 gallons sounds like a lot, but let's try and break it down into some numbers that we can understand. Actually, 10,600 gallons was just topping off the 777-200. So we were on the 777-200, not the 300 last night. From JFK to Madrid here was basically a transcon with a nap. It was 6 hours and 22 minutes. We covered 3,200 miles, averaging about 500 miles per hour. Of course, we're going to the east with the jet stream, maybe a 50 or 60 knot tailwind. We didn't really go way north. We kind of got on the 47th parallel and just pretty much cut straight across the Atlantic into Madrid. Came down from the north, Santiago, and then down into Madrid in the middle of the country. So on the 777-200, that would be a remember, the 777-200 has a maximum gross weight of 648,000 pounds. I took a lot of copious notes last night, keep myself awake on the long transcon out. The 777-300 has an amazing 777,000 pound gross weight. That's why they call it the 777. But last night we're on the 200. So last night's takeoff weight was 508,000 pounds, well under almost 148,000 pounds below the max gross weight. So easy peasy, relatively lightweight takeoff. That means we can do a reduced power takeoff and save the engine, save wear and tear in the engines. Remember, those engines are leased, and the less number of maximum power takeoffs you use, the less expensive it is for you to lease the engines, because it's the less wear and tear on the engines. So what did we have? Let's talk about that fuel. 10,600 gallons. That wasn't even enough to just barely top off the tanks. Well, I shouldn't say topping off the tanks. That's a poor choice of words. We never top off the tanks. We never fill it all the way up. We only ever carry enough fuel to fly the trip and have the required reserve and alternate fuels and meet all the different requirements for ETOPS standards. And that's a whole nother discussion, PhD level dispatch work. And that's all done behind the scenes and figured out for us. Thank goodness, because it gets complicated. Remember, it costs you about 3% in your fuel burn to carry additional fuel. It costs you fuel to carry more fuel than you need. You got to plan for enough fuel for alternate and reserve. In this case, they planned us out for an hour and 50 minutes of extra fuel on our landing. So that worked out to about 23,600 pounds of fuel. Everything's measured in pounds, but I'm going to switch it over to gallons. I can't do any further conversions of that for all my friends over here in Europe. It's just too many numbers. So that translates to about 3,900 gallons of reserve and alternate fuel. And so that's what we landed with, about 25,000 pounds of fuel, or what would that work out to? About 4,000 gallons of fuel. Anytime you get less than 20,000 pounds of fuel in the 777, you start getting nervous, because it'll take a good 5,000 or 6,000 pounds just to get around the pattern in the event of a missed approach or a go-around, which translates into about 1,000 gallons for a go-around. Now, that's a no-fault go-around policy at all of the major airlines today. They might ask why you went around, but they're not going to hammer you for it, even though it costs 1,000 gallons of fuel. Safety first. Now we need the fuel to fly over here, the fuel burn-off, as we call it, about 93,600 pounds of fuel to burn off. That's 15,610 gallons. So that gives us a release fuel, add all that up, of about 117,000 pounds of fuel, or 19,543 gallons. So when the refueler's filling the plane up to 10.6, he's looking at the total fuel load that we want and then just adding to whatever additional fuel was already on the jet from the previous flight. So that jet must have had somewhere close to 9,000 gallons of fuel still on it when he was filling it up to give us our total release fuel of 19,543 gallons. You keep it up with all these numbers, all right? So that means when we're cruising with a fuel burn-off of 15,610 gallons in 6 hours and 22 minutes, if you look at a picture of the engines as we're cruising, it's burning about 6,000 to 7,000 pounds per hour per engine on the 777-200. I'm just going to use 6 pounds per gallon for jet fuel just to keep the math simple. So that works out to about 1,000 to 1,200 gallons per hour per engine, or what would that be, 22 to 2,400 gallons per hour total. So 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14, 15. So there is your fuel burn-off, about 15,610 gallons. Now, how efficient is this per passenger? These numbers just sound huge. If you work that out to miles per gallon or gallons per mile, as the case is, you got 15,610 gallons divided by 3,200 miles. You're burning 4.87 gallons per mile, or a fuel economy of only 0.2 of a mile per gallon in the 777. But what you're doing is you're hauling a load. The 777-200 has a total passenger capability of 273 passengers. Last night we only had 178 passengers. But what we also had last night, and this is where the 777 excels at, is cargo. We had 33,876 pounds of cargo. So we had almost double the weight in passengers in cargo. And that's where the 777 can haul the freight and become efficient. So let's break these numbers down in a number that I can understand from riding motorcycles. Miles per gallon per passenger. If I ride the CB500X, I get about 50 or 60 miles per gallon. One person, one motorcycle. The new CRF300L is up to about 70 miles per gallon. Let's look at last night's load, 178 passengers. If we take the 15,610 gallons of gas that we burned coming out here, divided by 178 passengers, that's 87 gallons of fuel per passenger. So you take 3,200 miles that we covered in just 6.5 hours, divided by the 87 gallons per passenger, that works out to about 37 miles per gallon per passenger at just 178 passengers. If you fill that airplane up to its capacity of 273 passengers, that raises the miles per gallon per passenger to 56 miles per gallon. Now, of course, we are coming to the east going with the wind, so we've got that bit of a tailwind, which does help improve these numbers. But remember also, we're carrying cargo. So how can we measure cargo? That's kind of hard to do. The only way I could figure it is put it in a per passenger equivalent. That the 178 passengers that we had last night on board the airplane weighed in at 36,489 pounds. So you divide that by 178, and they are allowing 204 pounds per passenger. So that's kind of an FAA allowance, and that's been recently updated because we're all getting a little bigger, especially after COVID and hanging out here in Spain, plus our baggage of 204 pounds per person. I believe children are counted slightly differently, but that's what they just average it out to. So if you got 33,876 pounds of cargo like we did last night, divide that by 204 pounds per passenger, kind of get a passenger equivalent. That would be the equivalent of an additional 160 passengers on board the aircraft. So calculating all that, if you take that same fuel load that we burned, 15,610 gallons, divide it by the 178 passengers that we had, plus the additional 204 passengers worth of cargo, for a total of 344 passenger equivalent. Now you're getting a fuel economy upwards of 71 miles per gallon, which is the equivalent of that of the CRF300L motorbike. So that is just a fun little exercise to do with math on the 777. How efficient are these things? And the fact that the 777 can haul the packs and the cargo better than the 787 is where the 777 makes its money. But the newer aircraft are ultimately more fuel efficient, but give up a little bit in their cargo carrying capability. Thanks so much for your support. See you here. Welcome to Pica La Caratos. I think that's how you say it. Downtown Madrid. Check this out. I'll flip it around for you.